Chris, I want to get your take on just staying on TFC for a little bit, and I think Oliver can give me his opinion on this as well. But guys like you, Manny Aparicio, other homegrown players that were once with TFC and once considered top prospects at TFC.
Mhm.
What's just your opinion of the handling of youth players and academy players and homegrown players at Toronto FC, because not many of them have stayed on or I guess been developed over a number of years. So do you have a thought on that, just now that you've been able to move on as a professional, just looking back at your time there and maybe how the club handles those situations?
Yeah, I mean, I think the club does whatever they can to obviously help the academy products produce at an MLS level, right? And no matter what it is, they're always going to be trying to push you, and with a lot of money comes bigger name players, and that's obviously somewhere tough to break into when the money is being spent. But at the same time, whatever the coach believes in, if a coach thinks that an academy product is ready or not ready, there's not much you can do. It's up to a coach's decision. One coach thinks a certain way, and that's what you do, and you have to prove to him that you are ready. So I think it's up to the coach's discretion, the manager's discretion, if he thinks that an academy product is MLS ready, or if he needs time to prove sort of improve himself on whatever it may be, physically, tactically, technically, whatever it is. So I think it's tough to say just like about TFC. I think it's just in general about academy products. If a manager thinks that the player is ready, then I think they're going to give him the opportunity, because you do see it, like obviously myself and Manny, and throwing even names in the past, Oscar Cordone and Keith
Yeah.
McAvoy, which guys who have come through the academy process potentially being touted as the next big academy product, maybe didn't pan out as what to initially had thought. But then you have guys like Liam Fraser, and then even now Jaden Nelson, guys coming through the academy, even Jordan Hamilton. So I think it's a case by case basis. I don't
Yeah.
think they necessarily handle it bad or good. I think it's just depending on the manager's decision.
And I think you mentioned his name. I mean, even there's even people out there right now saying that guys like Liam Fraser aren't getting enough playing time. And this is a guy who's, appearing for Canada, against the United States in a massive Nations League game, and even he's not getting minutes for TFC. So, yeah, from where I'm sitting, it's just my opinion. It's is the club doing enough to integrate those youth players and give them minutes and give them moments, or is that not a priority? Some of it has to do with what position guys are playing, but I don't know. Oliver, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I think part of it is the lack of stability that was maybe at the club for a long time. Like we look at it now, and TFC are like a kind of model organization in MLS, and Vanny's in like what is sixth or seventh season, and they have a bit more of that stability now. And okay, Fraser's not really been playing, but you can see a few guys coming through. I think because they're that kind of club now, we forget that in the first 7 years of TFC, it was manager after manager after manager, and every time there's a change, I think it probably it makes it difficult to really have that long-term vision of bringing through young players, right, and giving them the development they need. So that's part of it. I think also it's just a case of you mentioned this. TFC are a wealthy club; they spend a lot on players. And with that comes big expectations that they're going to compete for trophies. And so kind of integrating young players who are going to make mistakes and need time to learn is kind of difficult in that kind of environment. But yeah, I wouldn't say they've been perfect about it by any stretch, but I think there's maybe some mitigating factors there that kind of explain a little bit of why there hasn't been so many young players coming through.
This is an interesting discussion, though, and Chris touched on it too. This isn't exclusive to TFC either, right? I mean, Toronto TFC is the team we're talking about right now, but this is an issue for the Whitecaps Academy as well. And you saw Brett Levi's plucked from Saskatchewan get minutes with Whitecaps, the proper like the first squad, and now he's in Valor. So it's a challenge for all of these teams to get their academy players minutes. So Chris, I ask you this now: if you could go back to when you're 17 years old, would you go with the MLS Academy routes, or would you sign with the CPL club, knowing that you'll get minutes and an opportunity to grow?
At this time and age, you mean, if there was a CPL?
Yeah, sure.
It's tough to say. The MLS academies were very good to me, and they're still very good. The infrastructure they have in place is amazing. I mean, if you've ever been to the Kia training ground, you're a professional from the moment you enter to the moment you leave. They have everything taken care of. So I think it's hard to say. obviously getting minutes is the most important for a footballer, no matter what. You want to play competitive games, you want to play in matches that are meaningful. I think it's tough. I really think that the MLS system is a good one. I mean, if there is a potential for MLS Academy players to come on loan to CPL clubs who are not ready to get to the first team, I think that could be a potential. So I think it's hard to say what I would do right now or what I wouldn't do, but I think that would be a good sort of offering if MLS Academy players could potentially get into CPL clubs to go on loan or something like that.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me, and it made kind of. I remember when Kurt did the interview with Bill Manning a few years ago, where he was kind of quite, antagonistic towards the CPL. And
that was such a good interview. That was such a good interview. That was such a good story. I'm not too mate. I'm a tabloid guy, man. I'm a tabloid guy.
Well, that to me was surprising and didn't really make any sense because, like, Chris can speak to this better than I can, obviously. But in my impression when I was covering the club, I think there's a lot to like about the academy. You know, the facility's really great. You're in close proximity to the first team players, so you really get those kind of role models and that kind of thing. But the big issue they have is the bridge between the academy and the first team, and the fact that TFC2, kind of hasn't really worked. So for me, the CPL is potentially a great thing for them because there's suddenly all these clubs that players can go out and get, first team experience with.
I agree. Yeah, and I think if you look back on sort of the TFC2 games that are being played, they're not necessarily as meaningful or as competitive as CPL games are, and that's just the fact of the matter. Is you look at given games like when we were playing in Halifax, as I can speak to the most, is that was a competitive match. That was a high level competitive match, and I don't think any like sort of TFC2 or academy game is really going to even live up to that measure. So I think it's only beneficial for every academy player, every young Canadian player to get into these meaningful matches. So I can't see why not, and why that would just be a good thing for me, in my personal opinion.